The Black Goddesses of Europe. So I'll begin this slideshow by talking about the Venus of Willendorf, who is probably the most popular of the Venus goddess statues. And just by looking at her, of course, she's made with carved stone, limestone. And from looking at this carving, we can tell a lot. First of all, it was found in Austria and is dated to be about 25,000 years old. We can see the fullness of the breast. In fact, all of her sexual related parts of her body, as you can see, are exaggerated full breast, exaggerated navel, exaggerated vulva. So this is letting us know that this is a fertility doll. Of course, none of us were there 25,000 years ago, but in all likelihood, this is a fertility doll. And when we talk about fertility in this sense, we're talking about fertility as far as human reproduction is concerned, and also fertility as far as agriculture is concerned. Look at her head. You can see that the style on her head is called Bantu knots. And I can kind of give you a contemporary example of Bantu knots. These are, Bantu knots are a very popular style. And of course, because Bantu people are popular and influential, the largest group in all of Africa is the Niger-Congo group. And within the Niger-Congo group, which is the largest subgroup, Bantu, who what people covering most of the land of Africa, most of the fertile land of Africa, it is the Bantu people. So Bantu culture, Bantu style, Bantu blood is just coming throughout the whole of Africa and anywhere where you find melanated people. So it comes as no surprise that when people migrated to the other stretches of the earth, and of course Austria is in the relatively low latitudes, then you would see that this style would still be coming. Another thing that's important about her um, hair here, her style, is that it's also across her face, which lets you know that this is not, it's also conceptual and somewhat symbolic. Another picture of Venus of Willendorf. And here is the image of the Venus of Dolni Vestonice, who was found in the Czech Republic. And we see something similar. This statue, however, is made with baked clay. She's 28,000 years old. You can see the fullness of the breast, the exaggeration of the navel, and the exaggeration of the buttocks and the hips. So clearly this is a black woman. These Venuses are black women. And when you look at time period in which they were found, 25,000 years ago, 28,000 years ago, clearly the people in those regions were either fully black people or either people who had maybe lost some of their melanin because of the geography of the region, because during 40,000 and 20,000 years ago is when those original Africans who moved to Europe began to lose melanin. But you can see, even if that was the case, or if that was some what we call race mixing, even at that time, the African culture was still prevalent, and the prototypical woman, prototypical fertility goddess was Africoid. And this map kind of gives you an idea. You can see when we get into the stretches of Europe, we're talking 40,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago. So these were clearly Africoid people in that region. And like I said, even if those people had began to lose melanin over the course of that time, they were still familiar with the Africoid phenotype, which is the physical presentation, and also Africoid culture as represented, as you can see, by the fertility dolls, the hips, the exaggeration of the feminine features, and the Bantu knots across the face. So if you want to learn more about Black goddesses um, in in the prehistorical times and antiquity, or even after that, then I suggest the book Fear of a Black Goddess: The Hidden History of the Divine Mother. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this brief presentation. Thank you.